Oh yeah guys, guess what? I've got a new poster, or at least a new wall decoration, and I think you might like it. Oh well, some of you might like it. Ta-da! There you go guys, check it out. Anonymity Tales, done by the wonderful Free Press of Kakistan. And well, people aren't going to like that because, one, I've gone from a dead meme that a particular subset of nihilists don't like to self-filleting myself, because that's my podcast. New one out this Sunday with Knuckle V, hopefully. How's it going everybody? It's your boy. And well, you see, there's been a guy who's been on my radar for a very long time now, ever since I've been doing the YouTube thing and been in contact with MRAs. And he has had a interesting history. He was one of the most, well, according to Karen Strawn, in my conversations with her and seeing her converse with Paul Elam in the recent stream, he went from the forefront of political thought in the early days of blogging in the early 2000s, late 90s, to being at the forefront of men's rights thinking and blogging and, hell, even YouTube, to, well, this. And I'm talking about Dean Esmay. Dean Esmay has been on my radar in his present form for a long time now. I had many Twitter arguments with him, and it all boils down to this. He is a Catholic, and not the kind of Catholic that basically educated me in college. College is a high school senior, for those of you who don't know, in America and beyond. I went to a Catholic college, a sixth form, and these people would, what I would describe as liberal Catholics. I can't think of any really good word to describe them. They weren't fire and brimstone. They weren't, oh, if you have sex you're going to die, or you're going to go to hell, or be gone. No, they were very lenient and very progressive, I would say, for Catholics. They did ram the religion somewhat down your throat with compulsory religious education lessons, but at the very least you could challenge them. At the very least, it was an open place and anybody could go and receive their first class education, which is the least I can say about Dean Esmay, who is the complete opposite end to them, where he hates atheists, thinks that he's being oppressed by atheists, and thinks we're horrible, we're trying to kill them, we have killed them, and he's worried about his life, and he's worried about America and the world, because atheists, they're the #1 threat. Not the social justice warriors, not even the alt-right, because he's not an alt-right guy at all. He, as far as I'm aware, is pretty left-wing socially, or was, when I saw him as an MRA and had limited interactions with him. I could be wrong. But regardless, this is what he is now. He is a fundamentalist Catholic Christian, and he has become rather ill, to put it lightly. He looks mentally ill. He looks as if he's become deranged. And he has a particular hatred towards not just atheists, but atheists in particular, like Karen Strawn. Even though not all the honey badgers themselves would consider themselves atheists, he has a particular hate boner for them. And he also has a particular hate boner for some people in the MRM, and also people in the anti-SJW sides of things, because they happen to be atheists. And he will say things about them that isn't really true, because even if they don't do any atheist content, that in the traditional sense, which is atheists versus Christians, he will still make videos and streams about them as if they were. So Sargon has been a unfortunate victim of this. Quite a lot of people have. And of course he is going after the old guard, like Dark Matter and Thunderfoot and others. But when he's attacking other people who don't really make that kind of content, yeah. Another thing I might add, that he's also pro-religion, as in all religions. Not that his religion is the one true religion, although I think he might think that, but in essence, he thinks that religion overall is a good thing for humanity, and he will protect people from criticism that he thinks is either undue, which is pretty much all of it. So yeah, he will even defend Muslims and Jews for the right to circumcise their kids, you know, without any consent or anything like that. Yeah, he really didn't like that idea, even though I'm pretty sure as an MRA he should, or what former MRA, he should know that that's something he used to campaign for. But hey, whatever, when it attacks the religious, it's bigotry, yeah, that's his big thing. Atheists are bigots, but he himself is not a bigot. despite the hatred that flows through him. But you know what? Let's get to that hatred, shall we? Let's show you some prime examples. Now, a lot of the stuff that he does is in the YouTube comment section, and he has loads of videos, but I'm only going to feature one video because it's creepy. Well, actually, it's one of many creepy things that he does, but this in particular really highlights his hatred of Andrea Hardy. Well, I do think every religion has to be looked at on its own merits, but until atheists put themselves and their religion in the docket for examination, scrutiny, and questioning and criticism, I trust my Muslim friends more. Hang on a sec. You don't like atheism because we don't believe in God. Yeah, spoiler alert, I'm an atheist, and not quite an anti-theist, but I am quite an ardent atheist. I do believe there is no God, and nobody has yet been able to prove to me that there is a God, besides showing me texts made by ancient primitives from the Bronze and Iron Ages, but that's besides the point. He's now calling us a religion, even though atheism itself is not actually an ideology. Anti-theism is an ideology made up of atheists who are anti-religion, but that does not make it a religion either. In fact, he's now calling us a religion, so technically we're not religion haters then, right? Oh well, whatever. All the many different Christian or religious cliches will be found in here. But he trusts his Muslim friends, you know, the ones who, you know, I'm not saying every Muslim does this, it's not true at all, but the ideology, the religion that prides itself on subverting and conquering other countries in the name of itself and to propagate itself, he trusts more, even though atheism itself does not do that, because it is literally just a state of unbelief. Your priority's fucked, but I respect your opinion. Just about. I've routinely found them kind, honourable, gracious, and inclined to defend a friend like me. Yeah, it's called taqiyya, Dean. They're lying to you. Oh well, some of them will be employing taqiyya. Others are normal human beings who are nice and gracious, like any other person. But a lot of them will be lying to you. It's called taqiyya. It's where they lie and deceive in the name of Islam in order to subvert the kuffar, to subvert other countries and ideologies so that they can bring them into the fold, so they can conquer them. Yeah, that's probably what they're doing. But, you know, whatever. You trust them more than atheists who don't have that concept, because there is no ideology, there is no tenets. That's why anti-theism is so different, but whatever. I still admire figures like Malcolm X. I would also, at this point, rather live in Muslim Indonesia than the oppressive, secular monstrosity that Canada has become since you all decided to take religion, by which you mean Christianity, out of your schools and governance and public policies, and decided as a culture that it was brave and daring and enlightened to shit all over Christianity and even lie about it. So because Canada has a, well, technically speaking, a division between church and state, even though technically the Queen is their head of state, and thus there is no actual division between church and state, there's no separation there, technically speaking, and because they're not teaching shit like creationism and religious morals, they're just teaching kids, you know, basic shit that humanity has, you know, gotten down well before Christianity was even a thing, and we teach them Enlightenment values. So because of that, because it's secular and it espouses Enlightenment values, even though Canada really kind of doesn't with Trudeau in power, but whatever, it is still influenced by that. These things that have propelled human advancement to such an extent is a bad thing. Apparently they think that's brave and daring and enlightened. No, they don't. That's just something that we've been doing for 300 years. And it works. That's why we teach kids that. You, on the other hand, would teach them primitive, backward ideologies, which may have good things to say about morality, but it also have some really shitty things to say about morality, and can develop people like you. Yeah, it is noticeable, very much so, that when your government began purging Christianity from the public square and from public policy formulation and scapegoating Christians for everything wrong in the world and claiming to be neutral on religion, your entire nation went from moderate and reasonable to deranged extremes, and it only took a decade or two. Well, considering that there's been a separation, technically, between church and state in Canada since the country itself was founded in the 1860s, yeah, I wouldn't say that's the case at all. And in fact, you don't really have any evidence to back this up, because the thing is, there are Christians in Trudeau's party, there are Christians in their Conservative Party and in their Libertarian Party. And in fact, it's interesting that you say that they're anti-religion when Trudeau is against the Quebec Charter of Values, which basically prohibits people from wearing their traditional religious dress in public work sectors. So yeah, he's very much for religious freedom, and in fact, he's probably very much in touch with his Catholic background because he got married in a Roman Catholic ceremony. So Canada is a very poor example of anti-religious sentiment. Just because they choose to have a secular education and a secular way of running their country doesn't mean that Canadians aren't in touch with their religious ancestry or culture. I mean, it depends on the individual, but it's pretty clear that even the King of Cooks himself is still very much in tune with his ancestry and his culture. So, yeah, interesting that. It is also extremely noticeable that atheists wind up SJW or SJW light, and those who don't either turn into useless, incoherent, libertarianoid anarchists or race extremist, fascistic right-wingers. Considering a lot of the alt-right are religious and are Christian, or even some other religions that aren't Jewish or Muslim, and considering a hell of a lot of SJWs, especially if they're Hispanic or if they're from Muslim backgrounds, they are going to be Catholics or Muslim. Yeah, that defeats your point. It runs both ways. You can either stay a moderate or you can become extremist or not. Both view Christianity with deep contempt and are proud of that contempt and proud to treat Christians with contempt and even proud of their own complete and total ignorance on religious topics. That's a straw man and not true, considering a lot of people are, from the alt-right, very traditionalist and religious and want to base their society on Christian values. Hell, even some people like Jordan Peterson, who aren't atheists, yes they're not, he's a Christian, or at least vaguely Christian. He does believe in a God. He says that he would like to base some parts of our culture on Protestantism. I think he's a Protestant, or was. That's something that goes against what you've just said there. Huh, interesting that. And let's not forget people like Zeus or Basfizz on YouTube. He's a Christian and an anti-SJW. Or if they're not proud of their contemptuous behaviour and attitudes, they will just stand silent while their fellow atheists behave that way. And y'all wanted our help with what again? How many times has Friended or Ozja, atheists or at the very least irreligious people, and even Karen Strawn has said that, and Paul Elam has said this on their streams, called out stupid atheists for their shit. The ones, the fedora tippers. Hell, even Naked Ape made a shit video about that. I talked to Jewish friends, Christians of non-Catholic denominations of all stripes, philosophical theists and deists, pagans, and even witches. Not an SJW among them. I've met a Wiccan, or witch, who was an SJW. And there are theists and deists, people like Linda Sarsour, who are SJWs, as I've already mentioned. Even the Pope is an SJW, pretty much. All see the seculars as more intolerant, controlling and dangerous. Steven Pink is a proven fraud, by the way. Secular countries are more oppressive and intolerant than Muslim ones. At this point, I would rather live in Muslim Indonesia, which is pretty cool according to most sources, than I would in enlightened secular Canada. Yeah, enlightened secular Canada, where the president is very much in tune with his Roman Catholic heritage and wants other people to be in tune with their religious heritage, to the point he is against rulings banning religious clothing or even items from the public sector. And let's not forget that these secular enlightened countries in which we live in afford you the religious freedom to spout this bullshit, but an Islamic country would not allow you to say this. They would not allow you to say shit like this. Unless it was in favour of Islam, that is. Not in favour of other ones. They'll be fine with you attacking the apostates, though, and the atheists, because they kill them. Yeah, and they also kill you if you happen to break the law there. It's very easy to do that. I found myself last year in a disorienting conversation with a Saudi Muslim who agreed that Islam isn't compatible with secular modernism and isn't compatible with Christianity either. And what makes more sense is to embrace nationalism and national religions, and Muslims can mostly stay in Muslim nations and Christians can mostly stay in Christian nations. And that both Christian nations and Muslim nations should recognise that the seculars are everybody's enemy. He'd never set foot in Canada or the US, and he didn't want to. I'm not surprised, he's an Islamist. And you've basically contradicted yourself because you've just said that all you religious people should be one and the same and attack the atheists, yet you are incompatible with each other fundamentally. Oh, you are so bad at this. I don't want to share a society with people who lie about my religion, and your co-religionists, your fellow atheists, routinely doing this with abandon. You act as if America and Canada are mostly irreligious. America's mostly religious. Canada, I don't have the statistics, but I assume quite a lot of them, especially those in Quebec and other French-influenced areas, will be mostly Catholic. And I assume, in the English-speaking parts, they will be mostly Christian or agnostic. Very few will actually be atheist. In my country, it is mostly agnostic, even though these people will refer to themselves as Christian, but they don't actually believe in God. Yeah, and they don't care about your religion. They don't care. No, they have far more important things to do, like, I don't know, pay the bills, support their family, feed themselves. Not all of us are fat slobs who sit on their ass all day making videos about atheists. By the way, he claims that he doesn't want us to share society with people who stand silent and Christians are persecuted, beat up, lied and mocked and deplatformed and scapegoated. And how come Sargon and everybody else, you know, people you hate, stand up for their right to free speech and don't like it when SJWs attack Easter and Christmas and other things like that? How come we say that's absolutely retarded? How can we stand up for your rights? Even though, to be fair, you aren't actually persecuted in America, you are the majority, and you have had many presidents who back your corner. Even Obama was a Christian. Yeah, contrary to belief. Whenever I mention this, some atheist always snorts, rolls his eyes, calls me a snowflake and an SJW who is triggered. And what I think in response is, yeah, we really do need to bring laws back to make it illegal for an atheist to hold public office, and maybe even need tougher laws to keep atheists out of our schools, police forces and any other position of authority, especially over children. And yet, you hate the fact that they're trying to do this to you. You have no evidence that atheists want to do this to you, but you are totally okay with being an authoritarian, being an SJW, and basically proving them right and saying that, yeah, we should ban them from public office being anywhere near kids. And by the way, you yourself should be nowhere near kids, especially your own. But we'll get into that, people. Don't you worry. It was atheists who brought us the SJWs. It was atheists who brought us other horrors too. And no atheist will even discuss it, let alone admit it, or admit to any problems, incoherence and violence in their own ideology. So how come there's Muslim and Catholic, Protestant, and God knows whatever religious SJWs then? Like Linda Sarsour, like your own Pope. How come these people exist? How can you say that atheists invented SJWs? We didn't invent SJWs. SJWs have always been a thing since the 1800s. Hell, we can even argue that the idea of the social justice warrior predates that. And they would have been mostly religious back then. He has even more things like this, showing how much he hates atheists and how he doesn't want to associate with them. Stephen Hawking died on Pi Day. Pi is an irrational number. Hawking was irrational in many ways, so I take it as a sign. Yes, he was very talented at physics, but he'll never win a Nobel Prize unless someone finds a way to buy one for him. So what if he didn't win a Nobel Prize? It doesn't mean that what he did didn't influence physics at all. I mean, how can you say that? And you just made a post of many by Christians attacking him after he died. Honestly, what a horrible thing to say. If an atheist did this to a religious scientist who died, you would be up in arms, you dickhead. I think I may just start removing anti-religion people from my friends. Such horrible ignorance isn't something rational people should have to tolerate. If you're one of those people, save me the time of looking for you and unfriend. Yeah, you aren't ignorant even though you are wallowing in your own ignorance and shutting out other viewpoints. And you basically just say anti-religion people as in atheists. Atheists, that's what it is. It's a catch-all term, people. He then reiterates this and says, yeah, this rule works pretty good. If I find someone who's friended me who attacks religion, they are my enemy and I unfriend. Religion haters are vile people deserving no respect. I think people who are open-minded, or at the very least are tolerant of people, deserve my respect. You do not, because you are intolerant, you are ignorant. In fact, you are willfully ignorant. You make up shit about whole demographics of people, and you basically then project this onto everybody else. Now let's get to the juicy bit, people. He has developed a hate boner for Sargon of Akkad and the honey badgers, and Karen Strawn in particular. Now the Sargon thing is nowhere near as bad as the honey badgers thing, because he reserves special bile for them. It goes sexual, trust me, this gone sexual shit, like, I'm not even joking. Hey Karen, if you're too scared to put on your big girl pants and face the music, little girl, do you think you could get Sargon to come into the Kumite and white knight for you? I'd love to give that filthy sack of shit a beat down in your stead. On the other hand, giving it to you personally would be even better. I've already beat up all your atheist boyfriends. You have to admit, that gets you a little hot, doesn't it? They all get so mad when they hear my name. But if you show up in person, when I'm done with you, I'll have your hands hog-tied, string you up on a tree, stripped naked and horsewhipped, you till you come 3 or 4 times for the audience's enjoyment, you filthy bitch. You destroyed any credibility the men's human rights movement could ever have by snuggling up to the filth you aligned yourself with. Filth you align yourself with for easy cash. I can't believe I introduced my children to you, even had you shake my little boy's hand. Now I use you and the Badgers as my example of horrible women you can never ever trust, no matter how nice they seem. Come on, Kumite, and take the beating you deserve, you filthy two-faced traitor! Traitor! Or send someone in your stead, or just run like you've been running for years, not just from me, but from countless men's human rights activists / MRA critics. You disgust not just me, but any decent person who gets to know you. So aside from the obvious deranged bullshit going on about Karen and the honey badgers, this all comes from their spat with the internet blood sports lot. Yeah, you come across as deranged and stupid, and yet you decry anybody saying that you're deranged or stupid, yet you're using sexual imagery and shit like this in order to attack Karen and insult her. Now, I can't tell if he's being serious or not. My gut says he's being serious, but another part of me thinks that he isn't, that he thinks this is trolling, this is blood sport shit, this is banter. Now, if he's being serious, then this basically means that he's admitting that he's a little ill, he's a bit fucked in the head, and he has certain sexual thoughts that perhaps he should not be sharing with us, namely BDSM, and trust me, by the way, he reiterates more of this later on Discord. And if this is banter, then he hasn't walked to view what banter is, and he's clearly just trying to fit in with the cool kids. Essentially, he's just Steve Buscemi in this scenario, who's going, how do you do, fellow blood sports people? That's essentially what he's doing. He's trying to get in there for his subs and views and to attack these people for his own personal vendetta. Now, speaking of that... Hey, I need to relay somehow to Jim, I really mean it, when I don't give a shit about him and have zero grudge with him. If that bastard lets me there to skin a honey badger or three live on the air, I'll openly get on stage and kiss his ass and admit to being a cooked ass who deserved the beatdown he gave me. And if he says I was mistaken in any of my assertions about him, I will not contradict him. I want to roast a honey badger alive on a spit. I will be his bitch if he'll let me. I've publicly promised to lash Karen Strawn to a tree, strip her naked and horsewhip her until she comes at least 3 times for the audience. If anyone could relay all that to Jim, I'd appreciate it. Or, you know, I could still beat his ass. I'm up for that too. And then when Queen of Bants, who organises all this shit, says that he'll have to wait until Tonkasaw gives him the go-ahead, he says, lol, I don't scare. I also don't take this shit that seriously. Not with him anyway. Badgers, I take seriously. Sargon, I take seriously. Those people are filth. Now, this could lead some credence to the whole banter side of things, but again, look how he basically admits that he will sucker up to Jim, be his bitch, because he wants to roast Karen and Sargon and all these other people. Like, really? He's just trying to use Jim. He's trying to use Jim to hurt these people that he doesn't like. He's a vindictive guy, and coming from a vindictive person as well, this guy is beyond anything that I am. At least time heals my wounds. Time doesn't care with this guy. It just doesn't bother he's that bad. He will attack Jim after this. They're just, the enemy is my friend. Now, the reason he doesn't like Sargon is because, well, he attacks Islam, and he recently did a video saying that, yeah, male circumcision should be banned, at least for kids, because he agreed with what Iceland was doing. And he didn't like that, our Dean. He didn't like that at all. And with the honey badgers, well, it's to do with MRA shit, and it seems to me just an irrational place. I don't know why he dislikes them other than he thinks they're all atheists, even though they're not all atheists. He's jumping on the bandwagon because of the spat that they had with the internet buzzbots. That's all he's doing. He's being an opportunistic cunt here. And then here we go again with yet more Karen Strawn bullshit. Karen Strawn has terribly betrayed most of the men who made her popular and accepted her as a standard bearer. She and her fake Honey Badger Brigade have run a years-long smear and harassment campaign against me and many others. Her group also spreads malicious anti-Christian and anti-Jewish hate propaganda, and many men on my team and friends of mine have faced persecution and harassment and lies from her and her fellows. She has also done much to suck money out of Cassie J's movie, while Cassie J gets crumbs too. Lots and lots of people are mad at this woman, including more than one to be found in Red Pill movie. She will even lie and say I am mentally ill, bitter, mock me and countless veterans for being brain damaged, and refuse to discuss specifics. She may be facing legal action from more than one party before the year is out. Ditto her partners in crime, Alison Tiemann, Mike Randbacam, and possibly others in her circle. Please do not give her any support. And if you want to talk to me about it, I'm going to redact that. The specific charges are religious bigotry, religious abuse, harassment, slander, libel, and even, at least one report, physical assault from members of her Honey Badger Brigade team. This is not a good person, and neither are her friends. I'm available to talk about it with any serious inquirers. But before we talk and blah 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 blah, he thinks she's a new Willy Bumblebee because I can't read that paragraph. It goes to shit because, again, he can't
do anything at the moment because he's that deranged. So much shit in this one post on Facebook. Now, it's kind of funny that he attacks them for being slanderous and libelous and, hell, dare I say, even physically abusive towards people, yet he has no evidence that Karen Strahan is trying to suck money out of the Red Pill movie, even though she was just a guest, much like him. One could say that even he's trying to do that, if we're going to go by his logic and his actions. I mean, you know, what I could easily just say that he's doing the same thing. I know how to make up bullshit too, Dean. I mean, he claims that for years he's been the subject of lies by them and persecution, yet years ago they were friends, and yet he remained friends with them until recently, despite all this. If such lies and slander were true and were happening, he would have seen it. It's the internet. You can't not see these things. This isn't real life, where they can say this behind your back and you might not even know about this unless someone tells you. And also it's the bullshit about religion as well. Yes, they will criticise elements of religion, like circumcision and male disposability, but other than that, Karen doesn't think it's that bad. She thinks it's positive. As for Alison Tiemann, I don't know. I assume she just doesn't care. She comes across as somebody who doesn't care. It's kind of interesting that you're saying all this, yet they're not the ones suing you. And it's also interesting that apart from the ongoing case they have against Calgary Expo and Mary Sue, no other suits have happened. And all these so-called people that he never names from the Red Pill movie and the MRM, no names, and they've not come out during this whole drama. They've been silent. I wonder why. That's pretty much it from that part of Dean. He's willing to lie about people. He's willing to basically say things about them that isn't true. Now, maybe some of this he does actually think is happening. I mean, the man is crazy enough to put that in his own head. But some of them are such blatant lies that there's no way that you're that deranged to truly believe them. Namely, the physical assault thing and sucking money out of the Red Pill movie. How does Karen do that? She's not the one who made the film. It was Cassie J who made the film, so she's the one who's going to get all the money. Now, maybe she's not made enough money because it wasn't actually that big of a movie. Yeah, it did well on the internet and in certain circles, but it wasn't a blockbuster by any means. I think she did enough just to get the food on the table. In fact, if this was the case, how come Cassie J hasn't come out and said this? And why Karen? Why not somebody else? Again, if she can do it, so can you. You were both guests. Anyway, let's move on to some of the more disturbing part. He claims that they think he's deranged. Now, this comes from him basically saying on the internet that he basically had a head trauma and this nearly killed him and this made him become a born-again Catholic. Now, here is what he says on the fireside chat with the Honey Badgers, which was 2 years ago. So if these lies about being years and years ago, then how come he was appearing on the fireside chat with Doge? Interesting. But regardless, he does briefly talk about this. He mentions it. Nothing more.
And I've just maintained a steady, strong interest in the movement. I left AVFM about a year ago. I was severely injured, nearly died actually, but I'm better now for the most part.
But it at least proves that this did indeed happen. And he's also mentioned that he's been on therapy, some kind of electroshock treatment. Basically, I guess it's electroconvulsive. I'm not entirely sure. Basically, they put nodes in your head and try to rewire your brain. Now, potentially this, along with the trauma, which he may or may not have disclosed to the doctor, may or may not have caused this issue in the first place, because there's too much of a link between normal Dean, MRA Dean, and then this head trauma happens, and then this therapy happens, and then he goes completely off the deep end. People have noted this. Paul Elam has noted this, and Karen Strahan has noted this in a stream they did together. So, yeah, it's kind of interesting when you think about it. But again, you can't really prove it. Maybe he was always on this path. Who knows? Maybe he was always susceptible to religious bullshit. Because as he said years ago, or something like that, he said that he's been an atheist, he's been loads of different religions and cults and shit, and now he's comfortable as a Catholic. So much so that he's willing to brainwash his own child, yes, and he's telling atheists that he doesn't want them anywhere near his children. Go on, Dean.
Atheists say there's no proof for God. Why do they say that?
They're confused or lying.
That's right. Now, should we hate atheists?
No, but you can't trust them even if they seem nice.
Why not, son? I know because it's sad, but why can't we trust them?
Because atheism is full.
I'm afraid it is. Love you, son.
Yeah, don't hate atheists, but do poison your child against atheists and basically make him distrust them. And what does distrust lead to, guys? Drum roll, hatred. Yes, a lot of hatred of groups stems from mistrust of groups. This is how the Nazis did it. This is how the communists did it, who he loves to quote, by the way. He loves to quote the communists and how evil atheists they were. And this is how Muslims do it. This is how all demographics who want to hate another demographic do. They sow seeds of distrust, and thus hatred is grown from that distrust. Now, a bit of context to this. Now, this child is 12 years old. That doesn't seem much though, does it? He's close to being a teenager and will soon grow up. But the problem is, not only is he a young child who is still very much malleable and prone to such brainwashing techniques that Dean is employing here, it is textbook brainwashing. This is what they do with kids. You've seen it constantly throughout YouTube history. Crazy fundamentalist Christians doing this with their kids. He's essentially defooing his child against any people who are atheists who he could interact with. This child is autistic, severely autistic. Now, intellectually, he's apparently very, very good, and he has an amazing memory, but socially, he's a 3-year-old. This is what Karen Strawn has told me, who was very close to Dean and has, as Dean mentioned, interacted with his kid. This kid in particular is not all there socially, and this is why this is so immoral. And Dean knows this. Dean knows what he's doing is brainwashing his kid. He knows this, and he would be against this if a feminist did this to a young boy, or if an atheist did this to their children, poisoning them against religious people, because he thinks that all atheists are trying to harm him, and that's why he can't have them interacting with his family in any way, or being in power, or just being, you know, normal citizens of society. He'd rather be second-class citizens and oppressed, yet he doesn't want to be oppressed. And because his kid is the way he is socially, he's in the position of trust and responsibility over him, and this kid will basically believe anything his dad will tell him, because one, it's his dad, and why would you believe that your dad is lying? Why would your dad lie to you even though he is lying to his kid? This is horrible. And he claims atheists are immoral and have done horrible shit. Some individual atheists have in the past, yes, but what you're doing, is that any better? Is that any worse?
All right, Max Jr., if you met another kid or an adult who told you there's no evidence for God, you know that's always a lie, right?
I mean, in this particular clip, he's basically saying to his kid that all the things that they will tell you are lies, so don't entertain them. Do not entertain anything an atheist will tell you. Do not entertain contradictory evidence, or lack thereof. Listen and believe. He is brainwashing this child. This is horrible. This is cult-like behaviour, yet he's going to say that atheists shouldn't be allowed anywhere near his kids.
So what makes math work?
God.
What makes the laws of physics work?
God.
And this last part is just more brainwashing, basically getting him to repeat things over and over again so it gets into his head. But there's not much more I can say without repeating myself. Dean is just a bigot who is a cry bully and an opportunist and is clearly mentally ill. So, been your boy, and until next time, I'll see you later.